Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia. If you're new here, today I thought I would talk about all the books I ended up reading for May. I ended up reading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books, which is literally my average. I read like 12 books a month, so I did very good. This is in no particular order. I'm just gonna randomly pull one and talk about it off of the top of my head because that's how I find these videos work best. When I sit here and try to like get the stats and everything, I just get so overwhelmed, so I just pick them up and talk about them. So let's go over all of those books. Starting off with a banger, I read Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I randomly picked this up because it is on Kindle Unlimited, and at night when I'm laying in bed I like to surf through and see what I can read on my Kindle. So I saw this and I knew I had the physical copy, so I was like, might as well start it. This book is following a wedding planner and a flower boy. He works with flowers. He's not like a flower boy. He works with flowers. But basically this is kind of like their second chance romance. He's like this super grumpy, I don't know, he's just like extremely grumpy. He's actually genuinely like mean to her, and I do love that in my enemies to lovers type romances, because I don't like when it's like, oh, he said a couple mean things to her. He's kind of like mean to everyone, so he was just like a grumpy mean boy, which I kind of liked, but he did have a soft spot for her, so I really like this. But basically she is starting her own like wedding event planner service, and she ends up like planning this wedding for a super famous couple, and the famous couple ends up wanting to use Elliot's flower business, so they end up having to work together like a lot more than she originally thought. And it was just this really cute book. The spice was so good too. Like, I love when spice is written well. It was paced well. I thought it was amazing, and I really can't wait to pick up more of Julie Soto's books. I want to say this is her debut. Is it? I don't know. But this is the first I've read of her. But it was such a good second chance romance, enemies to lovers. Yeah, I thought it was so fun and I loved it. And there's something about a tattooed, mean, grumpy man who works with flowers. I just love that. So anyways, I gave it 5 stars. If you couldn't tell, it was super good, and I'm really happy that I read it. The next book is actually a library book, and I ended up rating this 4 stars, I believe. This is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is basically a Holmes and Watson style detective like murder mystery. It's basically, there is this kingdom, right? And they have these 3 walls, and one day, what is his name? Den is investigating a murder, and when he shows up, basically a tree has grown out of this man's like chest and basically sprouted up and basically killed him. And they're like, whoa, what is going on? This is absolutely insane. We got to figure out what's going on. So Den goes and he's investigating the murder, and he reports back to his I guess you could say like his boss. She is like this really fun, quirky, foul-mouthed old lady who basically can figure out any type of murder, or like she's really good at investigating things. So he brings it back to her, and they basically go on this like quest to figure out what is happening, why trees are erupting from people's bodies. And it sounds really silly, but it was actually a very, very good book. I really loved it. The only thing that I didn't love and why I only give it 4 stars is there were so many characters for me to keep up with, and I genuinely couldn't keep up. And I don't know if it's because I'm stupid, I'm slow, I don't know, I just couldn't keep up. By the way, I live next to an Air Force base, and there's planes all day long, so if I were to stop every single time I heard a plane, we would be here for 24 hours. Anyway, yeah, there's just a lot of characters that I just couldn't keep up with. So for that reason, I gave it 4 stars, but I thought this was a really fun fantasy murder mystery type book. It also had like super quirky characters. Also, one of our main characters, Den, he could not read well, so he did a lot of things with his senses, which I thought was really fun and different, and I just really thought this was a good book, and I do want to own it physically because I believe there is going to be another one. So when I return this to the library, I will have to pick up a copy of my own. So that was the next book that I read. Also, I ended up reading this month The Reappearance of Rachel Price. This is Holly Jackson's new book, and basically we're following, what is her name? Belle. So Belle's mother disappeared when she was really little, and Belle was with her when it happened, and it's like this huge nationwide mystery because no one knows what happened to Belle's mom. And so 18 years later, they're filming a documentary. All of the family is there. Belle, her dad, her like aunt, uncle, cousins, like everybody is there. And they're all kind of just like talking about their experience with dealing with this and X, Y, and Z. And one day Rachel reappears. The reappearance of Rachel Price. She reappears and everybody starts acting weird. Belle doesn't really trust her. Nobody can understand what happens. Rachel doesn't even really understand what happened, or at least that's what she says when she shows up. Basically, we're figuring out what happened to her. We're watching Belle and Rachel's relationship and just all of that. I thought this was a really good book. I gave it 4 stars. I think the only reason I didn't give it 5 is because I did predict what happened. I thought it was painfully obvious, but a lot of people, when I watched their reviews on this book, did not predict it, and I thought it was very painfully obvious. But yeah, this was still a really enjoyable thriller. I really love Holly Jackson's writing. I think she is really good at writing characters that feel real and like stories that feel real. And I also liked the documentary type twist to this. So yeah, 4 stars for The Reappearance of Rachel Price. I feel like I cannot talk today to save my life. Anyways, I was having a hard time. Darn. I was having a hard time picking up books in the middle of the month, so I decided to go with good old faithful. I have read Normal People before. This is like one of my top books that I've ever read. I don't understand people who don't like this book, but anyways, moving on. This Sally Rooney just has absolutely lyrical writing to me. It's almost hypnotizing how good it is and how she can like make these characters seem so real and like beautiful, and I love everything about this book. I'm literally gonna hand this to my children. When I die, bury me with Normal People, please. Like seriously, this is such a good book. I don't want to like get into it. I did end up getting the UK edition of this book though, and I have the US edition, and I also have the scripts, so I have 3 editions of this book. But anyways, I don't really want to get into this whole entire thing, but basically we're following Connell and Marianne, who grew up together in high school, and then they have this like relationship all the way up until college and after, and we're following them in their lives basically and how they kind of just always come back to each other. It's so beautiful. The girls who get it. The girls who don't. It is what it is. 5 freaking stars for me personally. Okay, I genuinely did have like a good reading month, I will have to say, because I had another 5-star book. This is The Spark of the Everflame. I've been seeing lots of people talk about this book, and I ended up randomly picking up on my Kindle, and then I ended up having to buy the whole series because I just thought it was so good. So basically we're following Diem, and Diem lives in a world where the Descended, they call them Descendeds, basically rule over everything. Diem getting like tangled up with kind of like the wrong people who are trying to take over the Descended, and she also ends up getting tangled up with the Descended's like son, and basically it's their love story. They haven't like fell in love or anything, but I can tell that's where the story's going. At least that's what I think it is. But basically this is like a romance fantasy. There's lots of like political type of intrigue in the story, and I just found it to be so good. I'm not good at explaining things very well, but if you're into fantasy romance with that still having like that political side, I would highly recommend. This is a 5-star read for me, and yeah, I loved it so much. So there's that. The Chain, I ended up reading this with my best friend this month. This was crazy. So I think I gave this like 3 or 4 stars. It was good, but the ending lost me. So basically we are following Rachel's perspective, and one day her child gets kidnapped from the bus stop, and she gets this phone call that's like, hey, I kidnapped your child. In order to get her back, you have to kidnap another child. Welcome to the chain. And basically it's following that whole entire premise, and we get Kylie's perspective, and Kylie's the kid that got kidnapped, and Rachel's perspective. It was really good. I found it super like thrilling, and just like I was eating it up. And then we got to like the end where they kind of like switched. They kind of like switched it up in a way that I just didn't expect, and I don't know, I ended up not liking it as much as I thought it was, but I still thought it was really good. So I ended up giving this like 3 or 4 stars. I would still highly recommend this as a little thriller read though. I think I mentioned Funny Story in my last reading wrap up because I was almost done with it, but I did end up finishing it, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. I won't talk too much about it, but this is Daphne and Miles' story, and basically both of them get broken up with. They end up moving in together and falling in love, and it's just, it's such a good story. Emily, she just writes these like characters so well. I annotated the crap out of it. I also like had comments on like every single page. Like I could not stop myself. I was just giggling and screaming, and I loved it so much. So that was Funny Story, 5 stars. And then the last books, oh wait, no, I'm sorry, one more little book. I ended up reading The Kiss Countdown. I actually got it from my library at first, and I was like halfway into it, and I was really enjoying it. So I decided to look on Pango for a copy, and I found this special edition that somebody sold to me for $10. So it's got like a little spaceship, and then the inside is so cute. I couldn't believe somebody sold this. I just thought it was adorable. So it's got all these like little things, and then there is like some scenes from the book on the end papers, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So anyway, this book is following Anne-Marie and Vincent, and basically Vincent is a astronaut and Anne-Marie is a wedding planner, and one day she is in a coffee shop and she runs into her ex-boyfriend, and her ex-boyfriend's like, hey, are you here by yourself? I know you're here by yourself. No, you're not. He's like being a butthole, and she's like, actually, I'm not here by myself. I'm here with, and then she calls over Vincent, and Vincent doesn't know her. Well, they ran into each other before, but they don't know each other, and he like pretends to be the boyfriend, and then in the same coffee shop they end up running into Vincent's sister, who's like, is this your girlfriend? Oh my god. And then they end up fake dating, and it's super cute. It wasn't like the best book that I've ever read, but I still found it so cute and such a fun, cozy little romance, and I'm happy to own this cutie little edition. I think I gave this 3 or 4 stars. I think it might have been 4, but yeah, this is super cute. And also he was an astronaut, so I found that different. I've never read a book where the MMC is a astronaut, so I loved that. And then the last books I ended up actually reading for a 24-hour reading video that you guys, it'll probably be up before this, but I talk a lot about them there. But I read this book called Alive and Wells by Bailey Hanna. This is a Wells Ranch series book. I think it's kind of like the Chestnut Spring series, but basically we're following Cecilia, and she runs away from her abusive ex-husband to this ranch called Wells Ranch, and she ends up meeting this guy named Austin, who he's the boss of the ranch, and he's like super grumpy, and he doesn't like her very much. He's like, oh, another city girl here to come for a little bit and then run away, and X, Y, and Z, but their love story ends up being so cute. I found this book so incredibly cute. I was screaming and giggling. There was like so many good scenes too that I will remember forever. We have like this really spicy lake scene, and then we have the scene at the bar where she gets really drunk and he comes and he like saves her, and then there's like really heartfelt scenes between her and Austin, and then the ex-husband is like a very thrilling part of the book, and I just love this. I give it 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read the second one, which is called like Seeing Red or something like that. But I definitely have a new favorite cowboy romance to like scream about. Okay, and then the last couple of books, I ended up reading Carly Fortune's kind of like summer series. I'm just like not a summer girl, and I wanted to be in the summer mood because I live near the beach, and that's where I'm going to be spending my whole summer. So I just wanted to like get in the summer mood. So I read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This was her debut like a couple years ago. I bought it like when it first came out, and I never read it. And I picked it up, and this was just like not it. I do not get what the girls are talking about. Basically this is like a second chance romance, and we're following 6 summers ago to like present day. I don't know. I guess I'll tell you really why I don't like it. They're like kids, basically. Falling in love. Kids who are falling in love. And I cannot connect with kids. You know what I mean? So I just didn't like it very much. There are adult parts of this book, right? Because it's going back in time and then in the present. But I just couldn't get past like the chapters where they were kids. I just found it cringy. I don't know. That's just me though. And then I read Meet Me by the Lake, which was significantly better, even though this is the lowest rated out of all 3 of them. I don't get it. This premise was so much better to me. So this is also like a second chance romance, where they meet one time in a coffee shop in the city, and I think it's a coffee shop in the city. Yeah. Or is it a coffee shop? I think it is. But basically they like have this like whole entire time together, and then they like promise to meet each other at the lake where she lives, and the homeboy doesn't end up showing up. And so basically they go about their lives, and then one day he ends up showing up at the lake house and ends up helping her like on the business side of the lake house, and this is like their story moving forward. But he also shows up like in like a suit and stuff like that, and she's really confused because he was like a super fun like artist who was just like different and whatever. So we're kind of like following that story as well. But I loved this. I thought it was so good. I don't get why people don't like this book, I'll be honest. And then the last one I read this month was This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This was so good. I think this is like she wrote these two and had to get like her writing, had to get it, you know what I mean, like she got the hang of it basically. So this book was just beautiful to me. In that vlog I did talk about like certain parts where I was just like screaming over the writing, but basically we're following Lucy, who's like a tourist on Prince Edward Island, and she's eating at a restaurant, and she runs into this boy, and they kind of like hook up. And the next morning they're kind of talking about what she's doing there, and she's like, oh, I'm here on vacation, I'm staying at my best friend's house. And he's like, well, where are you staying? And she pulls up the address, and he's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, you wouldn't happen to know Bridget, would you? And she's like, yeah, that's my best friend. And he's like, oh, this is where you're staying for the summer. And they end up having like these like hookup sessions all the time, but she can't tell anybody about it, and she tries to fight it because her best friend told her when she first met her, I was like, if you're gonna come to Prince Edward Island, you have to eat your weight in oysters, leave the city behind, and don't fall in love with my brother. Because there ends up being a girl who was best friends with Bridget that fell in love with the brother, and that like ended their friendship over it. So Lucy cannot fall in love with the brother, but the tension between them two is just like so good. And I just loved Felix. I found him so incredibly like he was a reader, but like still like this like sweet boy, and also have that like I don't know, I just ate him up basically. So anyways, I loved this. I give it 5 stars. Such a good book. And yeah, I love like picking these up to show you guys all of the books at one time, but they're just so heavy. Okay, these are all the books I read for the month of May. Let me know if you've read any of these and also what you read in May. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.